Good evening, and welcome to the Board of Zoning Appeals, March 13th meeting. Welcome, and we'll call this meeting to order. Ms. Smith, if you could go ahead and get a roll call, please.
Chairman McGonigal,
Here?
Vice Chairman Quinn,
Here.
Mendel Bell,
Here.
Andy Thomas, Joe Reeves,
Here.
Cynthia Lover,
Here.
Wyman Wise.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Great, thank you. We'll take the opportunity on item number 2 on the agenda, if we can review the minutes. And after that, if somebody can make a motion to approve.
Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve February 13th, 2025 board meeting minutes.
All right. Second. Great. Thank you, Mr. Bell. Thank you, Mr. Wise, on the second. Any discussions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, next item on the agenda, communications. Is there any communications from the city? Great. Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. Ms. Smith, if we can get everybody to rise and get them sworn in.
Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the evidence you shall give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? You may sit down.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll start on the first item on the agenda. We got item number 25-4. We got an application by Cameron Parker for a variance to remove trees that measure greater than 24-inch caliper at Grand Dunes North, phases 4, 5, 6, 7A, and 8A. Mr. Parker? Come on up and introduce yourself and tell us about it.
Cameron Parker with Development Resource Group. I'm hoping you guys have a packet of exhibits in front of you.
We do.
We do.
Okay, great. So this is the last and final request from Grand Dunes North to remove trees. These 4 phases comprise 61 acres of this total development tract, which is nearly 200. What we're requesting are the trees that are located within the building areas of the lots that will not be able to be saved. So throughout this project, we developed the master plan to identify these preserved areas and protected zones, added parks. And so what we're requesting really today is to continue the same development plan and to remove the trees in the actual lotted areas.
Great, thank you. Any questions?
All right, a moment.
No. Give a second. We're going to hear from, we'll hear from the city, and then we'll come on back to you. Mr. Caldwell?
Petitioner Cameron Parker has submitted an application to remove 40 trees in excess of 24 caliper inches located at Grand Dunes North, phases 4, 5, 6, 7A, and 8A. Trees exceeding 24 caliper inches shall only be removed upon approval by the board. The board is charged with setting a suitable tree replacement schedule. City Council also has approved a tree bank where individuals can pay $300 per caliper inch of required planting. Staff recommends that the board review the variance application, hear the evidence presented at the meeting, and review section 2368.
Great, thank you, Mr. Caldwell.
Welcome.
Any questions for the city?
Mr. Caldwell, did this go to the planning commission?
This project went to the planning commission, yes.
Okay, how about you had to explain this to me every time. So what did the planning commission say about all these trees?
I did not attend those meetings, but what they do have power to do is approve removals of any trees, even those over 24 that are in right-of-ways and infrastructure.
So what did they say about this particular 40 trees that they want to remove?
They didn't comment on these 40 trees because it's not in their purview.
Okay. So did they, when we're looking at what was approved to be removed, what's being, this little chart here, this little cumulative report, They have no comment on any of these trees. None of this went to the planning commission. Like, sometimes we've seen this before where they recommended leaving some trees and then, but then the applicants wanted to come and remove them. So is that applicable to any of these trees? Did the planning commission?
I defer to the applicant on that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer that. So the cumulative report is a summation of both your purview and planning. So we've brought before planning all phases with exception of 6, 7A, and 8A. All of the trees that were under their purview were presented to them with a complementary street tree plan. And those are summed in each of the phases that you have before you. So both of your respective purviews are met there. So total, when we look at this from a whole project perspective, we've got 6,216 dBH removed, and that includes, again, both planning and zoning's review. And we've planned to replace more than 50% of those with strictly street trees. And then there's, like I mentioned, the supplemental zones, which are the preserved areas, landscape buffers, the park spaces that are additionally planted up and above and beyond that 52%, where 50 would be required.
Out of all the trees on these, in these phases, how many are you actually leaving?
In this particular project, I believe they're identified on.
Are we talking about the 61 acres that you're talking?
Yeah,
started
just
off
the
with?
61 that I'm talking about now. Those are shown on the first few series of exhibits. There are, just do this real quick. 15, 7, 1, 9.
So you're leaving 32 trees out of 61 acres. You're cutting everything else down?
Yeah, in order to succeed with the development, yes, we've got to remove the trees to build the homes.
Okay. What is when you're deciding whether to cut a tree down, I know you always tell me that, well, we have to consider the elevation. This tree's going to be higher or too low or something. We got to level this all out. What is the variation in elevation you would say is acceptable that would not kill a tree?
A foot. I mean, you would probably have an arborist argue that it's closer to, 6 inches to a foot. They're very intolerant to grade change.
Because, I mean, I'm looking at some of these elevations on here, and you've got, you clearly cared because you put existing elevation 25 feet, proposed elevation 27 feet.
Right.
Existing 25, proposed 28, so that's 23, I mean, that's a 3-foot difference, but some of them are less than that. I'm just going through here, like here, Laurel Oak on lot 119, existing elevation is 17 and a half, proposed elevation 17 and a half. So if you're looking at that on lot 119, which is, yeah, lot 195, lot 120, I guess, is the thing at the bottom, the number at the bottom of the page.
Yes.
So you have lot 119 there, and the tree is sort of off of there's no red dot that I can see. I don't know where it went. Looks like it's off the page, that 26-inch laurel oak. What are you doing? Why do you have to remove it?
On the earlier exhibits, the overall exhibits, that particular tree. You said lot 120?
Well, the page, the bottom it says lot 120, but
That-
in the
that
mid, on that
laurel
page, it says lot 119.
That laurel oak, that 26-inch laurel oak is actually proposed to be saved. We're going to save that tree.
You're going to save that one. So how do I know when I look at this, which ones you're saving, which ones you're taking out?
There's a red dot on these preceding exhibits that demonstrate the removals, and the green dots are the saves.
The green dots are saved, okay. Okay.
That tree, the Laurel Oaks is on that page.
Oh, you think it carried over? Okay.
Look at it.
Ah, okay. I see what you did, okay.
Yeah, so to elaborate, we kind of prepared the overall exhibit so you could get a kind of matter of scale. And then the other exhibits are more granular so you can get a lot specific.
Mr. Parker, what are the size on these lots? Are they 70 foot by,
They vary this, let's see, the lots on the waterfront, I believe, are 60 by 120. The interior lots are, I want to say 50 by 120. Yep.
So if I'm reading this cumulative report correctly, you cut down 6,216 trees and you're replacing them with 3,210 and
DBH, so that's the cumulative diameter of all the trees. So the total number of trees we've removed is 199, or proposed to remove, across the entire 200 and whatever, 38 acre project. So the sum,
The circumference.
6,000, yeah,
is 6,216.
yeah, and that's total diameter.
You have or are going to replace 52% of that.
That's correct. In strictly street trees. And like I mentioned before, above and beyond the street trees are landscape buffer trees, landscape planter area trees. You've got preserved park spaces that have additional supplemental trees. We just didn't sum all those because, it's a little tedious and unnecessary to meet the intent of the code.
Mr. Parker, you said it a little while ago. How many trees did you save?
Total,
Yeah, he gave Cynthia that one.
so in the 61 acres, I believe the sum was 35 trees.
35 trees. Out of 61 acres, they cut everything down.
And you can see the clusters that remain, and remember, these are trees 24 inches and larger that are identified here. I can't sum all the trees that are 8, 10, 12 inches.
Right.
But nonetheless, we originally master planned this project to preserve clusters because they usually remain healthy if they are, preserved in space with neighbors. If you preserve one or two trees out in the middle of nowhere, they tend to die. So the earliest exhibits, the colored like this, you can see the green park spaces, identified the tree save areas. Those are just exhibits to help you look at what we've done.
Are any of those areas wetlands?
The preserved area adjacent to the Spine Road is a wetland, but everything else is upland.
Okay.
But Mr. Caldwell, the trees that they removed that were not over 24 inches, how many inches were they required to replant? What's for the
I
plan?
don't have an answer for that.
You don't have an answer for that. 'Cause I feel like you're talking in generalities. This is all very detailed. So with your numbers and everything, I'm confused. And maybe it's not meant to be confusing, but it's confusing to me. So the trees that you can take out that are less than 24 inches, isn't there a replanting requirement for those that between 16 and 24 inches? But you don't know what those numbers are? So these numbers where they're replacing them, we don't know if they're being replaced for the ones they removed, or are these including the numbers for the 24 inches here that they want to remove?
This is just for trees over 24, is it not, your chart?
Correct, in their purview, correct.
So say that again?
These are, the matter right here before you is strictly for trees that are under zoning board of appeals purview. So they're strictly trees for your review.
I guess.
3,210 inches, the 52% figure that you're replacing, that is to replace these 24-inch trees?
Mhm.
And then there's also in addition street trees. So Because we're supposed to set the replacement schedule for the 24-inch trees.
Yeah,
over.
and the previous two reviews that we've done, done two large takedown blocks similar to this. We have, at least in general, agreed that a 50% replacement was what the expectation was. And that's what we've been pursuing.
I guess the question that I think Ms. Lover has and I have as well is that in this phase that you're taking out 40 trees, right?
44.
What is the total caliber inches of the 40 trees you're trying to take out? Because you're giving us general specifics of what you're doing for the project. We need to know what is for this phase that you're asking
I
for.
would-
So what
I
is the
would have to-
total? That's, I mean, we don't have a total caliber inch to do the 50
Right.
replacement schedule.
I can sit down and add them up
Well, I mean, that's,
specifically to this.
yeah, I mean, that's something that we definitely need to know in order to get to where we.
Yeah, I just feel like this is a conglomerate of numbers that maybe you didn't mean it to be confusing, but it's confusing me because I can't tell what you were required to replace for the trees that you removed between 16 and 24 inches. And then normally the board would know how many inches of trees you want to remove that are over 24 inches, and then we would set a replacement schedule with the type of trees and the number of inches.
May
So I
ask-
can't tell from your little yellow and blue chart what you're doing.
May I ask what the board's replacement schedule would be?
Well, it depends on what your caliber inches come up to.
Because physically in each phase, it's very difficult to meet a replacement schedule with street trees alone. They have spacing requirements. You know, otherwise you're going to have some phases of a development with a street tree every 20 feet and then some phases with a street tree every 75 feet. It just depends. We've thought that it would be,
Well, I understand, but when you give us these numbers of trees that you are saving, you're taking out in your replacement schedule, that has nothing to do with what this is. That was based on your planning commission replacement schedule, so we have two different things that we're looking at here. Am I correct on this, Ben and Elton? Because, yeah, right?
But I'm confused as well, honestly, because you just did, all right,
right. Hmm. And we've, so going all the way back,
Yeah, these
And
trees are in addition to what you've already agreed to replace through your mitigation schedule. These are above and beyond, because you have the 12 to 24 that they look at.
so going all the way back to the entitlement of this project, it was entitled under a development agreement and a PUD. And so I believe, I don't have the text of those in front of me, but I believe there's an establishment for park spaces, trees, and buffers. And so if we could refer to those documents, I could likely bring up the exact replacement schedule, but I don't have that in front of me.
But my original question was, when all this was approved, what through the planning commission, he said they did not, the planning commission did not, only dealt with things that were
in right of ways and
in right of ways, right, so they didn't deal with this. So your original document, your original agreement you're talking about, did they cover these trees that were outside the right of ways and streets?
You're talking about the original entitlement, or you're talking about just planning commission's plat review?
I don't really know about either one of them. I just want to know what number of trees you're required to replant for the 16 to 24-inch trees. And then I want to know how many inches you're removing of over 24-inch, you want to remove that are over 24-inch, so that I could add those to the schedule so we can determine how many additional trees you should have to replant to make up for this 24 inches of, the trees over 24 inches that you want to remove.
Ms. Lover, so you're talking about, we're talking about the 40 trees that he's requesting right now.
Yeah,
So if we find the inches on that, then we can understand what we're going to give him back to what they're going to have to.
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So if you can add that up, that would help us really move forward.
Yeah, I can sit down
'Cause-
and add them all together.
We're tasked with trying to save the trees. When we look at this, you actually, good job on showing the elevations. Because how are you going to save something where it's 10 feet down? We understand that part.
Understand.
But we do want to look at, trying to save any tree that we can. But if you give us the inches, then it'll give us an opportunity to figure out
Yeah, if you give me the opportunity to come back,
Well, if-
just after another 2 or 3 people come up.
yeah, we
I
can do
sit
that. You
down
just
and
wave
add
us
this
down
up.
when we finish up one, and we'll fit you right in if you, after you figure up that math.
That's no problem.
And then when you're figuring that up, what kind of trees are you replacing them with? If you're removing oaks, I want to see you replace oaks.
Well, the trees we're removing are generally gums. There's cedars. There are a few laurel oaks, but really, I think there's only one live oak. But again, the street tree replacement plan is a variety of trees. I think there's 5 or 6 species that we've prepared in the landscape package.
So you're saying when you replace these trees that are over the 24-inch trees, you're going to use those and put them into your street tree mix?
No, we generally never use cedar trees. Most of the time we use maples, a variety of oaks. Those are the only tree species that are really well set up to grow in a street profile.
Are you putting trees back on lots?
If the owners desire to do that, but no, not as a developer.
Those lots are 50 and 60 foot. They're a challenge. And you love to be in there if you got, where you got some areas where it's not gonna grow, but they're 50 and 60 foot lots.
I'm just thinking the development behind Publix, we made them put one tree on every lot.
Yeah.
We made them plant a tree to make up for all the ones they cut down, made them put a
let's
2-inch tree on every lot.
Let's do this. Let him do the math. And if
Okay.
you can take a look at a rough idea of what the trees are, maybe we can figure a solution.
Totally agreeable. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Norrie, do we need to do anything or we just,
Mr. Chairman, I have already put in the method that you're going to come back to this item, we can move on to the next item, and then when the applicant's ready, we can,
okay, do we have to table it or we have to do, not really?
well, he's going to do that at this meeting.
I will do that.
Yeah, it's gonna do it right. Sound good? Don't even have to worry about it. Okay, great. Mr. Quinn?
Yeah, I just had a question. In other words, once we agree to this, then we have to go back and check to make sure they're in compliance as well, right? For planting those particular trees.
I think we can, hopefully we can give them a direction on it with staff's direction. And then we
Okay.
can move this on, so. Great, give us a couple meetings here and we'll figure that out. Great, all right, we're gonna move to item number 2 on the agenda. We've got, BZA 25-5. We got an application by, Ty Bellamy for a variance to remove a tree that measures greater than 24 inches at 312, 214 23rd Avenue North. Mr. Bellamy? Hello, how you doing?
Good, how's everyone?
Good, if you can introduce yourself and tell us about it.
Ty Bellamy. This property is actually owned by my grandfather. He's had it since 1954, I think the year before Hazel came.
Okay.
And we've, recently, there was a structure on, there's 2 lots side by side. There was a structure on one of them.
Hey, would you mind, yeah, come up a little closer because they got it for the record.
is it.
Thank you.
There was a structure on one that was in disrepair. It's been torn down, and now we're going to build a house, 2 houses on those. And there's a very large cedar tree. It's been there for many years. And it is inundated right smack dab in the middle of the lot and actually encroaches on, it's on both lots. And the canopy is so large, it's touching an adjacent lot. So the only thing we can do to be able to build on that is to remove the tree.
Okay,
And that's why we're here.
great.
What is, I just see that it says it's over 24 inches. What is the exact measurement?
I don't know. I don't,
We need to know that.
okay.
It is in the middle of the lot. I agree with you. You can't use the lot, but if we're going to set a replacement schedule, we need to know how big it is.
Okay.
The description here says it's, the base of the tree's 31 inches. You know what it says? Is that from,
It's 31 feet from the
31 feet?
property line.
Okay, never mind.
Okay. All right, well, give us a second. We're going to hear from the city and we'll be back and we'll figure out that.
Yes, sir.
Great, thanks.
Petitioner Ty Bellamy has applied to remove a tree in excess of 24 caliper inches at 312, 314 23rd Avenue North. Trees exceeding 24 caliper inches shall only be removed upon approval by the board. The board is charged with setting a suitable tree replacement schedule. City Council has also approved a tree bank where individuals can pay $300 per caliper inch of required planting. Staff recommends that the board review the variance application, hear the evidence presented at the meeting, and review section 2368.
Mr. Crowell, do you, Ms. Lover had a question about the size of that tree. Do you all know what the size on that tree is?
I've not put calipers on it myself. Had you been out there? No.
Y'all go out and measure them? I thought the city went out and measured them.
Generally, when a tree permit gets applied for, we go out and measure them, and then the BZA conversation comes up. This one came in without a request for removal.
Okay.
Well, I think,
In the future, we can get you a measurement if they apply. So you'll have that information.
and we're looking, I think you're all going to go, if you could go out there and measure it, if we give a solution for the
Certainly,
size that we
yeah.
want to, 50% or whatever.
We can do
is,
that.
We can do that. Great. Thank you, Ms. Caldwell.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? The tree's in the middle of the lot. Maybe we can let staff go out and take a look at it and whatever we want to set the replacement schedule to. We can do that. Did it be prepared to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'd move that we approve variance, that there is a hardship on the property because the tree's in the middle of the lot, which means you can't use it. So I'd make a motion that we approve variance. I'm always up.
25-5.
25-5, and that the applicant be allowed to remove the tree and be required to replant, that the city be required to go out and measure it, and the applicant be required to replace it with $100 per inch for half of the diameter of the tree, or additional inches of tree equal to 50% of the diameter of the tree, or some combination thereof.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A second, Ms. Quinn. Any discussion?
No,
Was that a 50% replacement?
Yeah,
And did you specify hardwood?
I
Or-
did, and it's a
okay.
cedar tree,
Okay.
so. I'll just say no magnolias and no palms. Something else.
Any other questions? On, oh gosh.
No.
We had a motion from Ms. Lover and a second by Mr. Quinn. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Great, thank you.
Chairman,
Yes.
I might say that gum trees get a good rap.
I do. I have something from the Extension Service, a book from the Extension Service on trees. I've been using it to go out and identify trees. And it says gum trees are highly valuable trees. I was just amazed. I started reading that. So everybody tells me they're trash trees, and I meant to bring that in here where it says gum trees are a valuable commercial tree. So I thought it was interesting.
After the last meeting too, and around, they gather like this around water areas too. It said it's a valuable tree.
That's why you see them in low-lying areas, is because they soak up water. They grow in the swamp.
Yeah, we're going to move on to item number 3. We've got BZA 25-6. We got an application by Randy Pinkston for a variance to remove a tree that measures greater than 24 inches at 107 Cedar Avenue. Mr. Pinkston?
Yes, Randy Pinkston. I bought the house over on 107 Cedar, which was a major eyesore. I have got the site plan for a house that I want to put there, and the tree, I don't know, did y'all get a picture of the tree?
Yeah, we should have.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right there.
And I got the plans here, and the house needs to go where the tree is.
Good deal. Great. Do you know what the size of the tree is?
It's just barely over 24. Have y'all measured? Y'all been out there before? It's over 24, but just a little bit over 24.
A little bit
not
over
a whole lot.
24. Okay. All right, great. Any
Know what
questions?
kind of tree it is? What type? What type of tree?
It's oak.
What kind of oak? Just an oak.
One arm been broke off of it, another one's rotted off on the backside, so it's not a real healthy tree.
Looked like somebody chopped something off of it, too.
Great. Give us a second. We're going to hear from the city. We'll be back to you. Thanks, sir.
Petitioner Randy Pinkston has applied to remove a tree in excess of 24 caliper inches at 107 Cedar Avenue. Trees exceeding 24 caliper inches shall only be removed upon approval by the board. The board is charged with setting a suitable tree replacement schedule. City Council also has approved a tree bank where individuals can pay $300 per caliper inch of required planting. Staff recommends that the board review the variance application, hear the evidence presented at the meeting, and review Section 2368.
Great, thank you, Mr. Caldwell.
Welcome.
Caldwell, does the city know the diameter of that tree?
I measured that tree and it was
27 inches. Okay.
Great. Any other questions for the city? Due to the fact that this is in the middle of the lot, pretty much. Is anybody prepared to make a motion with,
I will. I would find that applicant has a hardship because the tree is in the middle, pretty much the exact center of the lot when you go to look at it. And that creates a hardship because you can't build on the property. And therefore, I'd make a motion to grant his request for a variance and that he be allowed to remove the tree with the provision that he have to replant either 13.5 inches of oak trees, or pay $1,350 into the tree bank, or some combination thereof.
great, thank you, Mr. Robert. Is there somebody prepared to make it a second?
a second.
Got a second from Mr. Reeves. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Here.
Great, thank you. We've got item number 4 on the agenda. We've got BZA 5025-7, an application by Jonathan Reynolds for a variance to remove trees greater than 24 caliper inches at 1308 Holly Drive.
Mr. Chairman, I spoke with him earlier today. He was going to be late, but he is planning on coming.
Okay, then we'll just, we don't need a table, let's just bring it back at the end of the agenda. Great, thank you, Mr. Norrie. All right, we've got item number 5. We've got BZA 25-8, an application by Philip Hornbeck for a special acceptance for commonly owned amenities at Sand Ridge Pod 2 off Champions Boulevard, zone mid-rise multifamily in the R2A district. Mr. Hornbeck? Hello.
This is a residential amenity center that is in common to serve the Sandridge Pod 2 townhome development. Consists of pool, playground, and a mail pickup center. And bringing it before you per the special exception requirement.
Okay, good deal, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Then we'll hear from the city and we'll be back to you. Ms. Caldwell?
Petitioner Philip Hornbeck has submitted an application for special exception to provide commonly owned amenities at Sandridge Pod 2 off Champions Boulevard, zone mid-rise multifamily residential R2A district. Section 2320 states that the Board of Zoning Appeals may approve commonly owned amenities on parcels platted for said amenities in new subdivisions subject to the standards contained in Section 23-161-3. Staff recommends that the board review the special exception request, hear the evidence presented at the meeting, and review attached Section 23-161-3.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell.
Welcome.
Okay, do any questions for the city?
Does this proposal apply, does it comply with all the city requirements for parking?
Yes.
Or the other stuff in ours?
Great, thank you, Ms. Caldwell.
You're
Any
welcome.
other questions for the city or from the applicant? Is anyone prepared to make a motion? And
What is this commonly owned amenity? Is it a community center? Is it a swimming pool? What is it?
It's a swimming pool with the necessary restrooms and utility storage attached to it, with a playground and a mail kiosk pickup center,
A mail, what kiosk?
or mail pickup.
Mail,
Yes.
mail, okay. I thought you were having people do
They're
their
connected to
fingernails.
the sidewalk system. that
Manicure,
serves the community.
manicure, pedicure, okay.
What requires them to get a special exception for this?
Because in the zoning ordinance, it's listed as a use that's not allowed by right. It's allowed with a special exception. And like we've been talking about over the past months, staff has been talking about maybe putting that as a, not a special exception, but a conditional use. Whereas if staff sees that they meet all the requirements, we can approve it at a staff level. Kind of clear up the system a little bit. But as of right now, it's still only allowed with a special exception issued by the Board of Zoning Appeals.
So do we have to add any special contingency?
If
or
you wanted to, you could.
You know,
We'll get the checklist for the special
I did.
exception. So, and thank you for providing that. That's definitely helpful. So when kind of meets the requirements, so if somebody's prepared to make a motion for the special exception, and if we've got any requirements you're thinking?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve special exception BZA 25-8, the Sandridge Pod 2. It fits the neighborhood and seems to better the community for that area. It fits within all the regulatory specifications. There's no exceptions needed that I know of or that I've heard.
The next page, it gives you the, go back. Second page. It'll give you the 5 things you gotta have. Just that second page.
special exception information.
Yeah, the special exception one.
You're missing that.
Just flip that one page. Here it is.
Okay, here you go.
There you go. You hit all A, B, C. et
Yeah.
cetera.
Let's see, that the special exception complies with all applicable development standards, all street parking, it does. That the special exception will be substantial harmony with the area in which it is to be located. That the special exception will not be injurious or to adjoining property. That the special exception will not discourage or negate the use of surrounding property for uses permitted by right. It will not. And in approving special exception, the Board of Zoning Appeals may impose such reasonable or additional stimulations, conditions, or safeguards as it, in its judgments, will enhance its citing.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Do we have a second?
I'll second, go ahead. Second.
Al, any discussion?
Yeah, no, so in other words, the things that I was talking about a moment ago, we're including all those in that statement that you just made.
Yes, sir.
Good, good.
Good deal. Any other questions or discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Hornbeck, and obviously don't go far. We'll move on to item number 6 on the agenda. We got BZA 25-9, an application by Philip Hornbeck for a special exception for commonly owned amenities at Santa Ridge Pod 3 off Champions Boulevard. So mid-rise multifamily in the R2A district. Mr. Hornbeck?
Similar to the previous, it's a in-common amenity center to serve the Sandridge Pod 3 Phase 1 community, which is a single-family detached residential. It consists of a pool, a clubhouse, maintenance building, pickleball court, bocce ball court, and a covered grill.
Great, thank you. Questions for the applicant?
So this will have its own amenity center?
Yes.
This own develop, okay.
Yes.
Good deal.
This is what we just approved was Pod 2, this is Pod 3.
They're not adjoining, but they're in the same general neighborhood, the Sandridge community.
Let's take a look at the,
Been any issues with the city's parking or anything, I can think of we need to discuss or talk about?
Not that I can think of, not that I noticed on the plans.
good deal. Well, let's do this while everybody's reviewing the next set of amenity centers. We're going to hear from the city, and then we'll probably have some questions. So, Mr. Caldwell?
Yeah, petitioner Philip Hornbeck has submitted an application for special exception to provide commonly owned amenities at Sandridge Pod 3 off Champions Boulevard, zone mid-rise multifamily residential R2A district. Section 2320 states that BZA may approve commonly owned amenities on parcels platted for said amenities in new subdivisions, subject to the standards contained in Section 23-161-3. Staff recommends that the board review the special exceptions, hear the evidence presented at the meeting, and review attached Section 23-161-3.
Great, thank you, Mr. Caldwell. Looking at the plans look very nice. Any questions for the applicant or for the city? The plans look very well done. Is anybody prepared to make a motion for the special exception on the second page, after the introduction page?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman. Make a motion that the board approve BZA 25-9 special exception for commonly owned amenities at Sand Ridge Pod 3 off Champions Boulevard that is owned mid-rise multifamily R2A district. The special exception complies with all applicable development standards and all-street parking. That the special exception will be in substantial harmony with the area in which it is located, which it will be. That the special exception will not be injurious to adjoining properties, it will not. And the special exception will not discourage or negate the use of surrounding properties for this permitted right, which it will not. And I have nothing that I want to impose on that and above and beyond.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Bell. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Got a second from Mr. Quinn. Any discussions or questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Great. Thank you. Okay. We got item number 7. We got BZA 25-10. We got an application by Chris Coleman for a variance to exceed the maximum allowed signage at 210 Highway 17 North, Zone Highway Commercial in the 8C districts. Is there somebody here representing for that issue? Great. Hello, and if you could introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Artemis Ripley. I'm here on behalf of Chris Coleman and Wells Fargo for this location.
Okay.
I'm sorry, did you say your name to me again?
Artemis Ripley.
Artemis?
Yes. I know, it's a pretty strange one. I get it a lot.
Can you speak loudly into, I can't hear hardly anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So we are actually here, I am here on behalf of Wells Fargo for our variance for the signage there. Code currently allows 77 square foot of signage on the building, and we're currently proposing 106 square foot of signage with one sign on each elevation, simply because of how this parcel of land is kind of nested in between a bunch of other businesses. It's just to allow more visibility for them.
Gotcha. Good deal. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, give us a second. We're going to hear from the city, and I'm sure we'll have some questions in a minute. Ms. Caldwell?
Petitioner Chris Coleman has submitted an application for variance to increase the allowable square footage of building-mounted signage at the Wells Fargo building being built at 210 Highway 17 North within the Highway Commercial HC District. The sign ordinance allows 77 square foot of signage on the building. Square footage allowed is based upon the linear building width facing the highway. The ratio allowed is 1 square foot of signage for each linear foot of building frontage. The building is 77 foot wide. The applicant would like to have 106 square foot of building mounted signage. Staff recommends that the board review the variance application, the attached drawings, and review section 233610E. Welcome.
So are they wanting one larger sign, or are they wanting an additional sign?
There's, I think, a sign for each elevation of the building, which is proposed. That could be done and still stay within the 77 square foot. You know, the request is to increase the total square footage of signage.
So in this request, are we counting the red strip as part of the signage?
No, sir, we're not.
Not, okay, just making sure. Yeah, I just wanted to. I was like, because if we are, we're splitting
That's
hairs.
a big sign.
What is your hardship?
Hardship is where this parcel is located. It's located between, there's Lowe's Foods, there's Aldi, there's a restaurant, and we have like the Exxon station beside them. If you look at the site map, I actually brought some supplemental information to help explain that I'd be happy to pass around. So with each of these, all of the signs except for the sign, which I believe is N02 or N01. Yes, N03 is the only sign that is actually visible on the building when you are driving on the two main roads. So 2nd Avenue North and then Highway 17.
So just to,
The other 3 signs aren't actually visible because they're obstructed by neighboring businesses.
So I just want to clarify, they're not going to have a street sign. They're just going to have a sign on the building. Is that correct? Or are they still going to have a street sign too?
There's no proposed freestanding, is there?
There is a small
Oh, there's a-
proposed
Is
freestanding.
it shown in
It's-
here for reference? I think it is,
Should be in
actually.
the sign package, yes. And that is also pretty much obscured by the Lowe's monument sign.
That's not included in the number that we're looking at, right, Ben?
That's correct.
Isn't included or?
It's
they
not
haven't
included in the
included?
106.7.
No, it's not
The
included.
106 is just the square footage they're requesting on the building
Correct.
itself.
Yes, sir.
And the ordinance says they
see
can
that.
have
That's the question.
77 square.
Just based on the frontage of the building.
Correct. There's also a retention pond on this parcel that kept them from having a larger building. So they were kind of working with what they had. I believe the building before was a restaurant of some kind, and
Finley's.
it was, yeah, and it was a little bit bigger because they had like a whole deck out into the retention pond, et cetera. But this is the bank and kind of pointless for them to do such a thing. So they had to shrink down the building to fit on the parcel.
We're charged to find a hardship.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's almost a 50% hardship. If they're allowed to have 77 feet and they want 106, they want an extra 29 feet? Is that right?
Can they cut down
About.
on the size of some of the letters or?
I don't see the hardship. If everybody in the area has to comply with those measurements for their linear feet, so many square foot of signs per linear foot, I don't see what the hardship is. Y'all knew what it was when you bought the building. That was
Correct.
you were gonna be restricted, and I know that the city has tried, they passed that new sign ordinance years ago to cut down on the visual clutter, so.
Totally understandable. These signs are actually on the smaller end of any signs I've ever permitted before, so they're really not large in the context of things. However, I do also have an example from the DOT showing what it's actually like legible distance for lettering. It looks like, I think the smaller letter sets, which is 3 of the letter sets, are around 16 inches tall. Legibly, that is only able to be like read by around 40 feet. The distance on each of this is like a 6-lane highway at this intersection. The distance on each of the lanes, it's almost 300 feet in some cases. So we're worried if we shrink down the sizes of each of these signs, that it still won't be easily visible.
Again, I mean, I'm thinking you got Verizon, isn't Verizon sort of catty corner across the street there? They complied with the sign ordinance. I can see their signs when I go by. I just don't see that your building is any different, that there's something odd about this property
a
in
small-
any manner that makes it.
In her defense, it is a small building. Like if you see what they're
Yeah.
putting on that lot, it's not a big.
It's
I mean,
smaller than
it is
my
a
little,
small
like,
lot. I mean, it's a very small
1,200 square
lot.
foot home. I mean, it's very small.
They
But
knew
they're
what
also-
they were gonna be able to build on it, and they knew
Yeah,
all
but it's
this.
the sign they're proposing. I don't know. I feel it is a small, and they're not doing a highway sign, like a huge highway sign, which to me causes more clutter than what you would see on a building. To me, it's just,
Well, they just wouldn't be able to do.
there is
more than,
nothing in here for a
40
street sign in this packet at all.
foot.
Okay, I'm a little confused by the monument sign thing because, let's see, and I mean, just for clarification, the wall signs are the only thing that says like with an area of 1 square foot per linear foot is in the code. Whereas there's on section A, it is, there shall be permitted 1 freestanding sign per location not exceeding 40 feet in height. And for each like, area, they're allowed up to 150 square feet. So the monument sign shouldn't be counted into like this variance at all.
It would just be limited to 44 square foot or
Right,
whatever.
right,
Yeah.
okay.
If I could ask a question, this east
Yeah.
elevation would be facing the shopping center? Would that be visible from a right-of-way?
Facing the shopping center visible from a right of way.
The shopping center is, but the back of your building, which is facing the shopping center, may not be visible from a public right-of-way.
It is not.
If it's not visible from a public right-of-way, it's not a sign.
Mm-hmm.
So that would take away 24 square foot from your request.
Oh,
And that
I
would
didn't
leave you
realize
5
that.
square foot over the maximum.
Okay,
So maybe even reduce the one on the interior smaller, because anybody that looks at it's going to know it's a Wells Fargo.
that is fair. I
Maybe
do-
make that one a little bit smaller, and then you'll be in compliance.
Okay, I can certainly bring that back to them.
But she doesn't need a variance then.
She would not need a variance if it's the back sign is not visible from a public right-of-way, and you wouldn't be able to see it from 17. I'm very doubtful you could see it and understand what it says from Second.
Yeah,
So that would remove 24 square foot from your request,
Mm-hmm.
leaving you 5 square feet short of being in compliance.
okay, certainly. I can definitely bring that back to them and see how they would like to approach it.
Well,
Looks like a good solution there.
you're going to advise them, but you're not going to, in other words, what the board is going to decide tonight,
Yeah,
you're going to go back, and if they object, you mean?
We won't have to decide
Not to
anything.
decide anything.
Okay,
Because
all right.
they're going to, right now, they gave a solution
Oh,
for the
with the
thing.
small, okay,
Mm-hmm.
very good.
We just
Shrinks the
maybe
back sign,
postpone it.
Right.
Yeah, that's good call on that.
if I can convince them to shrink down one of the signs by 5 square feet, then, I mean, that's
Okay.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Good deal. I think
yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Reeves had a good, let's go ahead and postpone it, and then we can let
That way
it drop
if you-
off if they got to come back.
If they aren't in agreement, you need to
Yeah.
come back.
Yeah, I would
Get right
appreciate
back on
that, yeah.
Agenda.
Good deal.
Certainly.
Great.
Murray, to postpone it.
Good deal. Thank you, Mr. Norrie. Okay, can we have a motion to postpone?
So you want to make that motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to postpone BZA 25-10 until the next scheduled BZA board meeting next month.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a second from Mr. Bell. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Parker, how you making out over there? All right, well, come on up. We'll
So the summary of trees removed brings the total to 1,154 dBH. So to do the quick math for you, that's 577 for half, 50%. And that would be 192 street trees.
That'll be what?
192 street trees at the 3-inch caliper minimum.
Okay.
I feel like you're asking us to approve your plan to use these trees for street trees, when you keep saying this about the street trees.
I'm just giving you, offering the math just so you can
Say that
make
number.
a judgment.
Say that total number again, of the 40 total. What's the 40 total caliber inches of the 40 trees?
1,152.
1,152.
I think you should have to replant your own street trees. I mean, I just think that as part of the required planning, I feel like you're trying to substitute these protected tree inches in for something you already should be doing.
But I think that's what they're already doing that anyway. Is this going to be, I mean,
This will be additional.
this will be additional, correct?
The street trees count towards the, towards the replacement. So,
Well,
and
we can make a,
it's
yeah.
up to your judgment, but
Right.
I mean, it can
Yeah.
count towards the sum.
How
many
many square
trees are-
feet are these lots?
Say again?
How many square feet are the lots? Average?
6,500?
Okay, because I'm looking, and this is part of our code, 23-68.1.1, calculation for determining whether trees should be planted or the property owner should pay into the tree bank. So I'm looking at this, and it says lot sizes of less than 7,000 square foot, which is, you're just saying they're about 6,500.
For the
So
smallest.
you should either have 2 trees, a total 20 caliper inches on your lot, is what I'm looking at. And you don't want to put anything back on these lots. I understand the lots are small, but I feel like, how many lots are you talking about in this phase?
Looking for it.
Looks like 900 and, is that right? 900
The
and,
total is in the close to 1,000. I think
Yeah, it's
it's 998.
978.
In the 61 acres that we're talking about? Now I'm getting, now you're losing me.
Just the phase,
Yep.
the
I
phase that
mean,
you're asking for the
There's
tree
a
removal.
lot. I mean, we're talking 300, at least in this block. It's 61 acres. The total development is 998 acres.
Okay.
Or 998 lots, 238 acres,
So, but we're talking about this phase that's just 61 acres.
61 acres.
So how many lots are in that 61 acres? Where you're taking these protected trees off of?
So units and lots, so I have to count townhome units. So give
Let's
me a
just go
second.
with single, okay, go ahead. Townhome units, okay.
So give me a minute. There's 189 single-family units, lots, and there are bear with me, I'm sorry, there's just a lot to sum up here.
and what Mr. Parker's figuring this out?
116.
I'm sorry, what was that?
116 units in the townhome section.
How are the townhomes, I mean, like
Clusters of 5 and 6.
clusters of 5, so that's 21, like maybe 21 plots, I would guess. Build actual, like
Yes.
they're connect sort of.
Collective buildings, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Crowell, how many, we were talking about street trees. How many are they required to put in? Is there a requirement for street trees to be put in?
There is a requirement, and I don't know what that is. You recall on normally platted streets, Cameron, what the spacing is for street trees?
In this development, they're staggered at 50-foot intervals. Just to throw a number out there, since we're just going crazy with numbers tonight, we've got proposed 1,036 strictly street trees for the entire development, and then I'd have to go look and add them up into each phase to give you the breakdown for each phase. We're just talking about a really big area here.
Yeah, but the problem is you're asking about a phase tonight, right? You're asking to remove trees in a phase
Right.
this evening.
So let's
So when
come-
you say cumulative, that's great, but at the end of the day, you're asking for us to give you a variance for tree removal in a phase specifically for what you're gonna move forward with for construction, correct?
A request to remove the trees.
Because you're moving into another phase, you're phasing this project, right? So cumulative is great, but at the end of the day, you're asking for a variance in a phase.
Right,
And that's, so when you keep going back to cumulative, what we're telling you is, especially Mrs. Lover and myself, we don't care about the cumulative aspect of the project. We care about the phase of the project, because you've already met your tree mitigation requirements for cumulative through the planning commission. These trees are above and beyond the removal of what was required when y'all did your PDD PUD, whatever you did, right?
I don't think that's correct, necessarily, but the,
Is that not correct? These trees are in addition to what would have been approved by the planning commission, correct?
They are.
They are, yes. These trees are above and beyond what you're going to remove.
It's like you're trying to do some kind of
Yeah.
sleight of hand. I know you get tired of talking to me and arguing with me,
I'm-
but I
I'm-
get tired when I hear you have 61 acres of land and you cut down everything but 32 trees. So I just, and then I feel like you're trying to pull some sleight of hand by moving these trees in, because you want to make them street trees, but you should put them in anyhow for street trees. That should be your requirement, but I think we should make you put in extra for these. I feel like you're trying to substitute these protected trees in and slide them in as something you've already planned on putting in.
can I ask for clarification? When we come in with planning commission submittal documents, we accumulate the total number of DBH that's removed in the streets and the improved areas. And of this total here, that's about half of it. And so the replacement that we have shown here, half of it is for the planning commission removed trees, and the other half is for what we're here for.
Yeah, the trees that aren't otherwise in right-of-ways or in
Right.
infrastructure.
And so, to address your point, this replacement schedule of 1,036 trees, the total 3,210 DBH in this table, it is a accumulation of both planning commission's approval and the assumption of your approval. So it covers both.
Is that correct?
Are you saying that the planning commission approval, that they counted up the number of inches that were being removed from right-of-ways and infrastructure and gave you a replacement requirement?
Well, I'm using 50% as the standard, the code standard.
Okay.
And so when I look at this number here, 6,216, that is the total of both planning commission's review and ZBA's review. So we bifurcate both of the submittals so that each body can review them under their purview.
Okay.
So you guys would have included any tree above 24 inches in this?
I'm sorry?
You guys would have included any tree above 24 inches in this cumulative removal? Because it's got, I don't see how you would do that.
Let's talk about this,
I
because
didn't
this,
create the chart.
I think when you talk about, to Ms. Lover's point, we're talking about 1,036 street trees. We really don't care about that.
Sure.
We care about the 61 acres and what you're doing here. We got 577 inches of trees.
That's his half. He's assuming that we're going to go with half.
Right.
And that's
but-
also,
but
he's
let's-
making that
but
assumption.
let's go through this, because we know what their role is, and we got to figure out this. Because we're looking right now, like you go through planning, if you're planting a ton of trees over and above what they're asking, that needs to be spelled out. So we're sitting here, don't give them everything. Come back to us, because what I would say is, because what to Mr. Bell's comment was, we don't want to hear, that number just confuses us. We're looking at this project, there's 577 trees. What we're tasked to do would be a minimum of half those trees as a rule of thumb. So right now, if you come back here, if that 1,036 really included a lot of this mitigation, it kind of confuses us, and it's hard for us to deduct the number.
Let me go back and just trying to establish what the standard I thought was. So we've come before you guys 3 times for other phases. And as we've progressed through this job, we've both summed the DBH that you guys would review and the DBH that Planning Commission would review. And throughout that, we've demonstrated that we have a goal of replacing 50%. Like, that was the standard that has been brought up every time, because that is the code standard. And so that is what I use to make this recommended replacement schedule. You guys can change it. With the 61 acres here, we have 1,154 DBH. And so you guys can establish the replacement standard as you see fit.
Well, here's the deal. If
That
you're,
doesn't, if that were the case, then you wouldn't need to come before us, because you'd already have your replacement schedule and you'd be moving forward. You'd be pressing on.
We still have to come here for the
you
variance.
still got to.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is that if it's less than 24 inches, they have the ability to make that decision. So that would be included in what they have done and what they have prepared for the planning commission. Anything above 24 inches is not prepared in that replacement schedule at all. So it is not included in this at all.
So we've got options.
No, so, and they're agreeing with this. They're shaking their head, yes, that's correct. So this is not included in your replacement schedule at all, because these trees are above and beyond your addition, because they're above 24 caliber inches. So therefore, they don't have the ability to make that decision in regards to removal of those trees. We do.
I understand that.
Okay, so that's what we're trying to get at, and you came in before us today and said, okay, so we don't, like what Mr. McGonigal's saying, is you come and you throw all these numbers at us, and we don't have anything that details exactly how many trees, how many were, if you did have this in the mitigation schedule, how they were counted for, and you didn't even have the total caliber inches that were supposed to be removed until we asked you to add them up, correct?
Well, the summary is by phase. I just didn't break out the 2 bifurcated sections. So there's the Planning Commission section and the Zoning Board of Appeals section. I can separate that column and demonstrate what Planning Commission has reviewed, and I can submit a second column that shows you what you should review. But
And the reason that, yeah, go ahead.
Let's come back. Let's just start on this one. We understand why you're cutting these trees down when they're 4 feet off, 3 feet off, 10 feet off. We get that. We understand. So now we're tasked with trying to do a good thing for the city, managing those trees. You all do a good job on that. The problem is we don't know those numbers. So I'm comfortable with right now, we got two, what I feel like we got an option. One, we can mitigate 577 inches, or we can table this until you show us that, right now, you're coming in and saying, well, they're included. Well, I don't know if any of us know it's included. The city doesn't know it's included. It took you a while to go figure the math and numbers out. So what I've got is an option. I'm good to do 577 inches worth of mitigation, or we can table this thing and you come back and show us the math, and then we could actually find a suitable mitigation. So I'm just giving you my little
What's the
thoughts.
standard caliber inch on a tree to
And
replace?
here would be my thought. If I was to make a motion, I would say, he's got 189 single-family home sites. He's got 21 other family sites he's got the townhouses on. That's 210 separate pieces of land. And I would say he has to put a 2-inch tree on each piece of that land. And it has to be not a palm tree, not a magnolia. It's got to be some type of a hardwood. Each plot gets a 2-inch tree. And that would be 420, and then that would leave 157 inches left over that he can add anywhere else in the development. And again, it would have to be hardwoods.
See, I'm good with that. Now, for the future,
That's
for,
my
like,
discussion.
when you come back for us, if you look at those math and we figure that out with the city and you bring it to us, then we can help, understand. We know you got to cut the trees down. We'd love to save any we could, but we understand the circumstances. So, Ms. Lever, I'm comfortable with that as well. So,
I'm fine with that motion too.
good. So go ahead and make the motion and let's
If you're
move
fine
on.
with that. yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my suggestion. Okay. I would make a motion that we approve, and y'all can stop me or correct me, or however you want, add whatever you think. I would make a motion that we approve variance 25-4 with the following conditions: that the applicant be required to replace a total of 577 inches of hardwood trees on those 61 acres of land, and that they would be replaced by 2 inches on each single family, a 2-inch tree on each single family lot, and a 2-inch tree on each plot for each townhome building, like a connected townhome building. That would result in 420 inches, leaving remaining 157 inches that they can replace, that would be hardwoods, that can be replaced anywhere else throughout the development on those 61 acres. But these cannot include any other, these are all in addition to whatever required trees they're required to permit, that they're required to replace. These are all over and above whatever the city determines they're required to replace for all the smaller trees that they removed.
So do you want to, so just,
You wanna
I
say it
I
again?
got you. But the standard replacement tree is 3 inches. So it's
Oh,
easier for them to
it-
get.
it is 3
it's 3
inches?
inches. So it comes up, if you do the math, 577, it comes up to 192.33. So if they replaced a tree on every lot or had the ability to use the 28 parcels that have the multifamily, it would cover that request.
Okay, well, I mean, we're not required to stick to the 50% either.
No, I understand. I'm just saying, but you're giving, you're giving them the 577.
Okay.
And it would literally put a tree on every lot that's 3 inches. And then they have the ability to add 3 more trees anywhere on that multifamily,
Okay.
townhomes, anywhere on those plots that would fit. So that puts them at 192 trees for replacement. That puts them at the 577 replacement schedule. I'm just,
Okay,
yeah.
that's fine. I
Yeah.
just throw something else
Yeah,
in there.
yeah, because the
I'm open
standard,
to
yeah, because the standard
modification.
tree replacement is 3 inches, yeah,
Do we have a second?
So should I start over?
yeah,
We should start over.
yeah.
I'll give you a second.
All right.
I just want to make sure that our city clerk gets all that, because it's confusing. That we approve variance B 25-4, and that the applicant's request to cut down those protected trees be approved with the condition that on this 61 acres, they have to replant 577 inches of trees. They have to be hardwoods, they cannot be palms, they can't be magnolias. And they have to put a 3-inch tree on each single-family lot. And
3 additional trees on any multifamily.
3 additional
Lot.
trees on any multifamily lot. And they all have to be hardwoods, everything. And these trees cannot be counted towards any required plantings to compensate for the smaller trees that they've removed that are less than 24 inches.
Wait, do we have a second? We got a second? Mr. Quinn, got a second on Mr. Quinn. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. And if you do have some other trees figured in, if we have that information before the city comes here, it helps us figure out how we're trying to mitigate
Yeah,
this.
I completely understand.
Yeah.
I just, we've done this a couple of times before, and and sorry to
No,
elaborate.
you're good.
But, what we've tried to do is be consistent. The way we present this is kind of complicated for a big tract of land like this with lots of trees that have, been proposed for removal. And, we're trying to do the best we can to meet the obligations of planning commission, staff's review, your review. It's just a lot of exhibits to prepare, and sometimes we just can't be as specific to, the way people want to review it. So we do the best we can.
Well, if you got, and we appreciate it. So if we come back here and we work with staff and you guys, if you all understand where we're coming into this.
Sure.
And you're planting more trees than there, we could take that in consideration for you.
I'm certain that we're planting more trees than are required.
Okay.
At
Well, if you
least-
can do that next time in the future, I think it'll help you and it'll help us. So, because it's challenging for us, like you said, and I know we know it's challenging for you all, so, but we appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys.
Yep, thank you now. Good, anything, we do have one item. Yep, we got, yep. If, Mr. Reynolds, if you'll rise and get sworn in by Miss Smith, we'll get you, come on up here and we'll get you sworn in.
Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the evidence you shall give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Great, thank you. And if you'll introduce well, let me put this for the record. We've got item number 4 on the agenda. We got BZA 25-7. We've got an application by Jonathan Reynolds for a variance to remove a trees greater than 24 inches at 1308 Holly Drive. Mr. Reynolds, if you can introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Jonathan Reynolds.
Great, thank you.
Looks like 2 trees, sweet gum, 128, and then a pair of twins. I guess that would be equal to, if you add those together, 41 inches. Both sweet gums. That one's in the house pad. The 28 inches actually in the swimming pool. But we're leaving the 16-inch oak in the backyard. And I think that there's a 14-inch, but it actually gets removed, but we are leaving the oak.
How many inches are you counting?
So there's a sweet gum that has two trunks. Sweet gums do that sometimes. You got one trunk going straight up and another one next to it. Those
That's
two,
42
one's
inches?
20 inches and one's 21, so
41.
they add those together, yeah, 41. And then there's one big one right at the pool for 28 inches.
Talking 69 inches.
Yeah.
So I went out and took pictures of the lot.
Oh, right.
So which ones, they all had red strings around them. So which ones were you wanting to remove? The ones
So I'm going to leave the oak tree in the very back, and we'll remove the others. But there were only 2, I think, that were over the 24 inches.
so even though they all have red things around them?
Yeah,
I mean,
that may-
I counted 1 tree, then 2, a double trunk tree, and then it looked like 3 more trees towards the rear of the property. Where's the road?
I don't know where the ribbon came from. That might have been from the previous owner.
So if you look at that.
I'm looking at the right picture then.
He's got strings on all
Yeah,
five of them. Okay.
Okay, okay.
So when you look down the. Yeah, I can see, I think that's probably that one. But looking at the property line, when you look at it from the street, it looks like the house to the left, it looks like your property line's curved the way it's laid out. So I was trying to figure out exactly where the property line and which trees
There's
run.
an easement on that right side.
Okay,
It's 20 foot, so it's an odd setback for the lot and pushing the house into that tree on the side.
Oh, yeah, we won't touch those. Oh, that twin oak on the side and that holly behind it, we won't mess with those.
so that oak, if I'm looking at the lot on the right-hand side, there's a tree, it's got a big branch hanging out over the empty lot.
Yeah.
Is that your tree,
I'm not sure.
or is it their tree?
That's literally right on the line. We won't mess with that either. It's like dead on the line. I can show you.
Mm-hmm, right. It just seemed like there was a branch that was sticking out, but that's into that easement?
Yeah, the only ones we were looking at were the ones.
So you're planning, you said you're leaving what, the 15-inch oak? What'd you say on the back? 16?
Only ones that I'm looking at.
Where's the birch? I know, you're showing me the picture, you're showing me I'm looking at and I'm like, is that the birch there? So you're taking that out? And these lines, are that where you're building the house? Those poles in the middle? That's what I was trying to figure out, looking at it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions for the applicant? Nope. Mr. Caldwell?
Yeah, petitioner Jonathan Reynolds has applied to remove trees in excess of 24 caliper inches at 1308 Holly Drive. The trees are 28-inch sweet gum, a twin 20 and 21-inch sweet gum. Attached is a plot plan for the planned home and pool with pool deck. Trees exceeding 24 caliper inches shall only be removed upon approval by the board. The board is charged with setting a suitable tree replacement schedule. City Council has also approved a tree bank where individuals can pay $300 per caliper inch of required planting. Staff recommends that the board review the variance application, hear the evidence presented at the meeting, and review section 2368.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Caldwell.
You're welcome.
Any more questions? Is someone prepared to make a motion?
What do you all think about a replacement schedule? It's 69 inches, I mean, half of that's 35, that's a lot.
I think he's getting dinged on that tree that's got the 21, 28, because normally those trees grow from a root structure. It's not actual, like it's a root and it's sprung almost like, it's not a typical, and normally they're not healthy trees to begin with.
So
69,
that's a
like
lot.
Myrtle said, you can cut 20 inches off of that because it's
Yeah.
really one tree.
So 49, replace 25?
I'd say, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
fair,
fair
right,
enough.
that's fair, yeah.
All right, I make a motion that we approve variance 25-7, the hardship being that the trees are in the footprint of the new construction, with the condition that the applicant replace 25 inches of trees, that they be hardwoods, or pay $2,500 into the tree bank or some combination of those two, and with the additional condition that the oak tree on the property line on the right side remain, and that the additional trees he said he was going to leave in the back, that they remain as well. That would be it. Oh, it's $300. Oh, okay. I printed that out, I didn't see it, okay. Well, we went with 100, I'll still go with 100.
I think that's fair because he has a true hardship also.
He does.
And he's got that drainage easement, which really pushes his house far to the left. I mean, he really does have major hardships.
He's gonna leave that big oak that's hanging over
Yep.
that easement.
Yeah, so I think that's fair.
Okay. I'll
I
leave the
second.
motion the same.
Get a second out of Mr. Reeves. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Great, thank you. Can we get a motion to close the meeting?
I'll make a motion to close the meeting, Mr. Chair.
I second.
Good deal. Thank you, Mr. Bell. Thank you, Mr. Reeves. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. That was, good deal.
Hey, Ben, when y'all,